The use of armored and heavily protected vehicles in assault operations has declined as drones have become more effective on the battlefield, but it is still too early to say that the Russian military has shifted fully to demechanized warfare. Yuriy Fedorenko, commander of the 429th Separate Achilles Unmanned Systems Regiment of the Ukrainian Armed Forces Specialized Security Forces, explained this during an interview on Ukrainian Radio. Fedorenko noted that armored vehicles were once widely used to transport personnel to frontline positions under the protection of mounted weapons, but this method has become far more difficult. Modern UAVs can now detect and destroy vehicles before they reach the line of contact, reducing the effectiveness of traditional armored transport. However, he stressed that this does not mean mechanization has disappeared from the battlefield. Logistics are still carried out using motorcycles, buggies, small vans, and other motorized transport, all of which remain part of mechanized warfare. He also emphasized that Russia continues to deploy armored vehicles depending on battlefield conditions. In poor weather, such as heavy fog or low visibility, the enemy often attempts assaults with armored columns, knowing that drone effectiveness is limited. When unmanned systems are less capable of tracking or striking targets, Russia tries to rely again on the protection and firepower of armor. This demonstrates that warfare has not become completely demechanized, even if the role of heavy vehicles has changed. At the same time, Russia is facing a severe shortage of armored equipment. Analysts report that the Russian military has lost more than 15,000 armored vehicles, a level of destruction that its defense industry cannot rapidly replace. Although Russia can recruit new personnel at a rate of up to 30,000 per month, it cannot manufacture tanks and fighting vehicles fast enough to compensate for its battlefield losses, having already exhausted much of its usable Soviet-era reserves. As a result, Russian forces have increasingly turned to unarmored civilian vehicles for so-called meat assaults, sending troops forward with little protection. This shift highlights a significant weakness in Russia's ability to conduct large-scale, mechanized operations and points to a looming crisis in its ground capabilities. Recruitment numbers also paint a misleading picture. While the Russian government has managed to replenish troop numbers at the same rate it loses them, this does not indicate widespread support for the war or high morale among potential recruits. Instead, enlistment is driven primarily by financial incentives, with bonuses that exceed most other available jobs. Many recruits sign contracts that contain hidden conditions, leaving them trapped in obligations they did not fully understand when agreeing to serve.